I want to take a look at some of the materials that you might find helpful. Now, for this class, I did not make any required course materials because it's online and there's just infinite good mathematical content on the internet. And I'll show you a little bit of that, and you'll see some of it peppered throughout the semester. But let's start with some paper books that you might find helpful. Now, right here, I've got Fundamental Methods of Mathematical Economics. This is an old edition, so you should be able to find it for like $5 or $10 online. This is by Alpha Chang, spelled Ching. Now, this book is really nice because it is focused on economics. So it's going to be looking at mathematical tools with an eye towards answering economic questions. It's also nice because that's the focus, it is giving us sort of a useful table of contents to think through all of this stuff. It's laying it out in a really useful way. Uh, the newer version is incredibly expensive. I think it's like $100, but you can pick up a third edition. I used this back in undergrad, which was about a million years ago. So you can find a copy of this edition for next to nothing. Um, Books are cheap and they last forever. So if you can buy a copy of this for $5, it's really not a bad idea. It's certainly a better use of $5 than a lot of things that you probably already do habitually. Now, another thing that I find really helpful is Larry Gonick has a lot of really great books. And he's got these two that I'm going to look at here that are really nice for their pictorial illustration of the concepts we're going to be dealing with in this class. So his cartoon guide to algebra is looking at we're going to be dealing with a lot of algebra. And he's looking at sort of the underlying tool that we're going to be dealing with. So if you feel like your algebra skills are lacking, I would highly recommend looking for this. So he's got all these nice explanations of what's going on. It's easy to read. It's fun. He's got a good sense of humor. Very nice book, The Cartoon Guide to Algebra. The Cartoon Guide to Calculus goes deeper than that. So this is going to be the other big mathematical tool we're using is calculus. So here he is again providing a relatively gentle introduction to a pretty difficult concept. In any of these books, you're going to see some of the technical stuff that we're going to mostly gloss over as lazy economists. So it is nice to have something tying that technical stuff together, and a really good source for something like that is a nice general purpose math textbook. This is one I really like by Carl Smith, The Nature of Mathematics. This one, I think he's up to the 13th edition right now. The new edition is always incredibly expensive, but the nice thing about math is it doesn't change very much. So if you get an older edition like this 11th edition, you should be able to find the 11th edition for next to nothing. The 12th edition might be pretty cheap by now also. And this again is really nice for, if nothing else, the table of contents. So this is laying out a lot of concepts that are relevant to our mathematical approach to economics, starting with the very fundamentals of how do we solve problems, how do we look at things logically, how do numbers work, which is not something we're going to have time to deal with. We have to economize on our scarce 15-week semester, but this is really cool stuff, and studying it can help to elucidate the other things that we're going to see. So, The Nature of Mathematics by Carl Smith, highly recommended. If the newer ones cost a lot, go ahead and find a cheap older edition. And finally, the Sholmes Guide, The Introduction to Mathematical Economics. I use this a lot in this class, and again, like the Alpha Chang book, the table of contents is laying things out in a really useful way. Right? It's setting up the basic order that you want to be looking at these topics in, and it's directly relating it to economic questions. Now, Sholmes guides, there are a lot of them for different topics. what they do is they walk through problems with solutions. Now, solutions can be really helpful. And what I really like for the Sholmes Guide is if you're having trouble with a particular topic, let's say taking the derivative, just copying out the answers by hand is a really good way to go through a solution done the right way. You're going through the motions so that when you get a new problem that you have to solve on your own, you've seen it done before. So my recommendation for something like this is you go through, let's say, any given example, you copy it out by hand in your notes, and then you come to some new problem and you just cover up, say, the answer key, and then you try to solve it on your own, and then you compare your answer to the answer in the answer key, try and figure out what went wrong, and then just repeat that until you're starting to get most of your attempts correct. Now, some other things that are going to be really useful are some of my favorite YouTube channels. Eddie Wu does a really nice job of walking through these concepts, so you might find his channel useful. And there are a million really good YouTube channels. We're not going to see all of them. My favorite is 3 Blue 1 Brown. We will see this for sure when we're looking at calculus. We'll look at the Essence of Calculus playlist. And we'll also see this when we look at the Essence of Linear Algebra. He's got a nice playlist where he gives really excellent visualizations to help you wrap your head around these abstract concepts without getting bogged down in actually solving problems and just doing the grinding work that we normally have to do in a math class. 3 Blue 1 Brown, very good, especially for the conceptual stuff. And he's also got some stuff that we don't need to know for this class, but is still just really nice to see. This series on Hamming codes, super interesting, not at all relevant to this class, but I would encourage you to go out of your way to check out things like this. And along those lines, these other channels that 3 Blue 1 Brown recommends are really good. Mathlogger is fun. Numberphile will cover a wide range of topics. These aren't things that you necessarily want to see to succeed in this class. These are things you want to see to better appreciate what is going on with math. How do mathematicians see the world? This will give you a richer experience of the world around you. You'll be able to see some underlying logic that we don't have time to cover in this class, but I, again, just recommend checking that stuff up purely recreationally. And finally, another one that I find really helpful is Patrick JMT. He does a really good job walking through problems. Also, he's solving them by hand in the basic format you're going to see me using throughout this semester. So anytime you see one of my videos and it doesn't quite fit, my recommendation is to check out some other explanations. These are some good places to start. Try some practice problems, and of course, ask me. Go to office hours, take advantage of the class Discord I've set up, communicate with each other, and just try and, discuss the stuff. That is how you get it into your brain. All right, so hopefully these tools are useful to you. And if you find any that are interesting, by all means, share with me and your classmates. And as always, good luck.